Many will argue that because of the new accessibility, connectivity, and technology of the new world, our health should be on the rise. We have newfound access to healthcare in places like France where it's universal. Most importantly, we now know more than we did before. We're more aware of health issues, both physical and mental. We know how to treat them and symptoms of early diseases or mental illnesses. However, ironically enough, as informed, as advanced, and as updated as we are, the health of Generation Z is one of the worst relative to our parents. I can personally say that there have been times where I've sent a text or voice message instead of talking to or finding someone, even though it may have been fairly easy to do. This is a small example that shows just how technology has influenced our human interactions. Research is showing that the number of young people facing mental health issues is very high this day and age. I, for one, know at least one person who has had or is currently facing or dealing with mental issues. I'd say it's safe to assume that every one of us can think of at least one person who is facing depression or anxiety or bipolar depression or has in the past. It's astounding and shocking to think of that, but the actual number is 1 in 4 people. According to international research, the lack of human interaction and connectivity of the modern world has led to a decline in physical and mental health of Generation Z, which results in the first generation that will be unhealthier than its predecessor. Alan Besslink explores Generation Z and obesity. This source focuses primarily on childhood obesity of Generation Z. It has been on the rise, and over 9 million kids 6 through 19 are overweight or obese. A lot of different states like Georgia, Texas, California, and more are showing similar trends of overweight children or unhealthy BMIs. As well as that, another contributing factor is the lack of physical activity connected to new technologies over generation. Childhood obesity is a primary issue that defines Generation Z. Something that the source mentions is in California, only 34% of middle and high school students met all 6 fitness goals in 2009, as compared to 32% in 2008, 29% in 2007, and 28% in 2006. But on the opposite end of the spectrum, reports that 41% of younger consumers say that they would pay a premium for foods they perceive as healthier. According to Tufts Health and Nutrition Letter, Generation Z consumers, those under the age of 20, are more health conscious when buying food. A survey questioned over 30,000 people in 60 countries and came to the conclusion that Generation Z consumers are the most willing to spend more money for healthier foods. Overall, Generation Z consumers are more concerned with healthy decisions in the market, and it drives their buying decisions more than it has for any other generation. Still, the intent to buy healthy is not the same as being healthy. Summarized by the North Carolina State University Institute for Emerging Issues in the report The Face of Gen Z, the connectivity of our generation precedents a decline in physical activity. And this could lead to Generation Z being the first generation that is unhealthier than the previous. We also face high levels of obesity and chronic diseases that accompany that. This lack of physical activity is putting Generation Z at risk of being the first generation to live shorter, less healthy lives than their parents. Another quote, in the 2007 to 2008 school year, 17% of public school students were identified as having chronic health conditions, compared with just 6% in 1997 to 1998. Translating the intent of health motivation into actual action is the path to restore physical health to future generations. Encouraging the 60 minutes of exercise a day and a somewhat healthy diet, incorporating more physical activity classes, or even holding health regulations to higher standards could be alternate solutions. It isn't just our physical health that is suffering, it's also our mental health. Studies have been showing that the overall mental health of Generation Z is also declining comparatively to past generations. To introduce this topic, Juliana Strachan from the Sydney Morning Herald and Caitlin Barr from The Guardian analyze data and trends. They state that the change in our lifestyle, the disconnect of the real world, and the transition to the online world, and the exposure to world and adult issues through social media are all causes that affected young minds. Direct quotes pulled from these sources are, when asked what issues they faced, young Australians listed mental health as one of their most pressing concerns, end quote. Another one of the starkest markers of Gen Z to date is the sharp rise in reported mental health issues. Young men and women in the UK are seeking treatment for low self-esteem, anxiety, depression, and self-harm in greater proportions than any other generation on record. They primarily argue that through the new connectivity and the new age, Generation Z faces higher risks of mental health issues. Social media and the rising presence of it in younger people also alleviates mental health. This relates to human interactions and the lack thereof, and how this deprivation contributes to younger minds facing mental health issues. Depression, for one, is becoming a leading issue in teenagers, but also general populations. Nicholas Cargras from the Scientific American asserts that the increased use of social networking sites has led to the decline in mental health, especially in teenagers from 12 to 19 years old. He directly says, teens in particular are now 74% more likely to have trouble sleeping and twice as likely to see a professional for mental health issues. Addressing this issue is a fundamental solution, and the next steps would be to promote help for those suffering mental illnesses. Making people more comfortable with the terms of depression and anxiety and self-harm, or promoting more centers for help, are all solutions to the issue. In the future, to prevent this from carrying through generations, efforts should be made to promote human interaction, even though we live in a connected world. Looking at the stance of both our mental and physical health, the most important steps to take are acknowledgement of the issue and then take action. By acknowledging the issue of childhood obesity and depression in teenagers, we are allowing young people to seek help and to be self-aware of their own decline in health. You can't make someone want something, so you have to help convince them that they want it themselves. We can't force kids to stop using phones and to stop using technology, because in this day and age that'd be impossible. But we can encourage them to be aware of the consequences of things like these non-physical human relationships. Once we have acknowledged that fact and the issue, then direct actions can be implemented. Some things like healthier food options, or increased mandatory athletic classes, or requirement of social interaction, or even things like federal regulations on health. Thank you.